Hey, you guys. So, Sarah Kastangi here, and I am coming to you guys to do a really quick training based on a request from Nabia. We were on last night for our area meeting, and we know it was a tough night for a lot of people. So we were just kind of talking amongst ourselves and with Lynn and Shelly, and I shared with her what I was going to share with you all, or kind of a highlight reel of it, and she asked if I would go on and record it so that she could share it for her team, and suggested that I also share it with mine. So here goes. So what got me thinking? You guys all know I went to California a couple weeks ago. Went to Arbonne's home office, and we had an amazing day of training and just connecting and just amazingness. It was I can't. It's still hard, it's so hard for me to put into words. And then last weekend, some of my local team came here, and we had Danielle, and that was just, I thought, amazing as well. And I hope you guys were all as moved and inspired and touched as I was. It really, I just found it to be a very just really real connecting opportunity to get to really embrace and understand, like, okay, what moved us to say yes to Arbonne in the first place, and now what's holding us back. And I think everybody did some really great connecting with themselves, of kind of that self-discovery. But then what brought me so much joy was sitting back and watching everybody connect with each other. So one thing that kind of kept coming up from Danielle, as well as I think Nate, shared the word as well, was decision. That whenever you hear our leaders talk about making a big move, or whether it's deciding to get their bonus, or deciding to go to the next level, or whatever it is, there you always hear this talk about a decision. And I absolutely believe that. But I think sometimes we say we've decided because we need it, we want it. So in our head, we've decided, but maybe not, the connection hasn't been made in our heart. And what ends up happening is, although we have a million and one reasons to act, we also will always have a million and one reasons not to act. And if the head and the heart aren't in sync, then what typically wins out is the not to act. So while we were in California, there was an interesting one. So several home office personnel spoke to us, but Sion was one of our very first speakers. And so for those of you that don't know, Sion is the son of our founder, Peter Mork. And so he started off by telling us a story, and he said he doesn't think he shared this with, that too many leaders know this. So I'm not sure what part of the story he was referring to, or if it was the whole story, or what. But basically what he told us is that back when he first came to Arbonne, was back in 1989. So remember, Arbonne got started in 1980. And I believe when his father founded it and started it, he was still in high school, went on to college, and when he graduated college, Peter brought him on board. So he joined Arbonne in 1989. And he always felt that it was a path that was chosen for him. It wasn't something that he chose for himself, but it was in line with his core values and his belief. And he saw his dad's vision and how much joy it brought him, and all of that. However, Peter passed away, and one of the things that happened is leadership came on board, and it just wasn't feeling as in sync for Sion. So he actually left Arbonne after about 15 years. But Kay came on board in 2009, I believe. She came on board right before I joined Arbonne, I joined in 2010. So Kay came on board, and when she came on board, I don't know how much you guys know the history, but prior to Kay coming on board, Arbonne was growing so fast that it didn't have a lot of the infrastructure in place to really support the rapid growth. And they ultimately ended up declaring, I forget which stage, but one of the bankruptcies that was basically just a strategic move to be able to basically get a reset, kind of hit the reset button in order to really build the infrastructure to support the growth and the demand that Arbonne was facing. And so back when I first started, we didn't have a ton of new products right off the bat. That all wasn't there because Kay was working so hard to get a solid foundation under it. And for those of you that have heard Kay, seen Kay, like she just really embodies the heart of what Arbonne's all about. And that's really, really unique in a CEO. So what ended up happening is after Kay returned to Arbonne, she actually reached out to Stian because she thought it was she just wanted to get a better idea and a better understanding of who Petter was and what his vision was and what his beliefs were and, what did he see for Arbonne. So she reached out to Stian to meet up with him. And once he met with her and kind of, he got re-inspired. He saw that Arbonne was back in line with his father's vision and the core beliefs and everything. So this time, basically what happened, Kay called him, but then he asked her to take him back. And he joked around and said, I said, take me now or lose me forever. And of course, she brought him on board. And that was, I want to say that was like maybe 2012. So a couple years after I had started my business, Stian came back. But the difference is this time, his passion was in it. His commitment was there because it was his decision to return. So decision is super, super powerful. When somebody decides something for us, I mean, think about it. When you try and get your kids to do something, how much more success do they experience or commitment do they have when they decide it for themselves versus we tell them they need to do it? So that decision is super powerful. So I just thought that was really neat when Stian shared that story with us. And then it led into, so as I was looking back through my notes, the next thing that jumped out for me that kind of went along with this whole theme of decision and what that does for propelling your success was Carlita Nelson. And for those of you that watched or were at the Nation meeting, you heard Becca share a little bit about it. Carlita, one of her main topics was talking about balance. But in that, she said, through it all, through the course of your journey, know your priorities. Okay, know what your priorities for the future are. And I believe that was really, really important for Stian because he knew his core values and his priorities for the future. And he could see that that was not the direction that Arbonne was going. It was straying a little bit. And my understanding from everybody I've heard through the years is a lot of that was the rapid growth and trying to keep up and maybe losing sight of Petter's core mission and core values. But now, once it came back to be in line with Stian's values, he decided and he was in and he was committed. So Carlita talks about knowing your priorities. And she said, Arbonne is a vehicle. It's a vehicle to give opportunity. It's an opportunity to achieve our priorities. So really, this kind of goes in line with knowing our why and knowing why we said yes and why, having that why that makes us go out and act, not just that why that makes us cry. We want a why that makes us cry, but we need a why that will make us do and make us act, get up and act. So Arbonne is that vehicle of opportunity to follow our priorities. So she strongly encouraged each and every one of us to stay very, very focused on how well we are doing at maintaining our priorities. Okay. So, like for me, family, being present and available with my kids, that was a number one priority for me in my life. As soon as I had kids, I knew I wanted to be the primary caregiver for them the majority of the day, every day. And myself and my husband. And continuing the path that was laid out for me as a physical therapist, even if I were to change settings or that sort of thing, the facts just were I was going to have somebody else choosing my time, choosing the times that I could be with them versus me having 100% control over that. So it was not in line with my priorities or our priorities for both Todd and I. But we still had the need, right? We still had the financial needs that had to be taken care of. So Arbonne came along to serve as a vehicle to give me the opportunity to keep my priorities, right? So I hope that makes sense. At the end of the day, then she says, really focus on how well are you doing that? And, this is something that I've been doing a lot of reflection on because number one, why when I started Arbonne, we need to get out of debt, right? Financial security. That's what we were looking at. Definitely, I wanted the choices to live my priorities, to put my kids first, all of those things. We still have this debt. So something has been interesting for me to step back and say, we're still in debt. So does that mean this hasn't worked for me? But when I look at it through the lenses that Carlita gave us, it's worked just perfectly because she says, stay focused on how well you are doing it, not on the speed. Okay. So I've been building this business, keeping my priorities with what was right for me. Okay. Now I know I could have adjusted a couple of things and maybe gone a little faster, gotten to the top a little faster. And so maybe I wouldn't have had to, be where I'm at this far along, but that wasn't what was in line with my heart. So, stay focused on how well you're doing it, not necessarily the speed. Know, are you living according to your priorities? Are you living according to your core values? You don't have to sell out to succeed. Okay. This is not about selling out. This is about using the vehicle of opportunity to live the life according to our priorities. The other thing that she said that I thought was really interesting is she said, vision is a skill that can be developed. It's like strengthening a muscle. So even though we might come into this business with those immediate needs and those immediate focus right now, and we okay, maybe we've met those and we're living with our priorities and we're like, okay, this is as big as I can go. Now we can grow our vision. It's a skill. It just takes nurturing and growth. And by plugging into these and our meetings and supporting each other, the COA class, that's going to help grow that skill just like anything else, just like sponsoring or sharing the opportunity or, mastering skincare, whatever it is, those are all skills that we can grow. Okay. But what often stops us is the fear and belief. So that next step, so I'm almost done with it, but All In by Mark Batterson. And you guys have probably heard me refer to it before. I am just totally devouring his books. It's speaking right to my soul. I firmly believe that we get the nudges to read and dive into the things that we need at the moment. And I definitely needed this. But one of the chapters in thinking about that decision is really what it comes down to is enough is enough. We're going to hit a point and nobody else can decide it but you. Nobody else can tell you, oh, you know what? You have everything it takes to be a regional vice president. It's time for you to go. Remember that kid I told you about? Like what happens with our children when we try and tell them to do something versus when it's their idea to do something, right? Nobody can decide for you. Nobody can make you do something that you're not ready to do or you don't want to do. So we all are at some point going to hit that point of enough is enough, where, we can't continue down the path that we're on because it's a dead end, whether we're talking about, relationships or physicality or spirituality or in our business. And he used a term that I thought was he said, it may not kill us, but it'll eat us alive. And I don't know about you guys, but I felt that way in the physical therapy world. It wasn't going to kill me. I was not, I was going to get through, but I was not enjoying. My heart was constantly being torn in two every time I had to go to work and couldn't stay home with my children, or, I was missing out on being with Todd and the kids on the weekend because I had to go to work. It wasn't killing me physically, but spiritually, emotionally, it was killing me. Like I was losing my spirit. I was losing my passion for helping people. I was losing my passion for why I went into physical therapy in the first place, which was to help and to serve and to, really just give my all to my clients and my patients. And when my heart felt like it was being torn in two places, that was really hard for me. So enough was enough. Like, I needed an answer. And, thank God he brought Arbonne into my life, because I never would have gone out seeking it. And if Danielle had reached out to me to say, hey, would you hear about what I'm doing? I probably would have ignored her. So I would have been one of those people. So don't read into a situation. Just be passionately persistent. And so anyway, so we can't keep doing what we've always done, not if we want to get something different. So not if we want to recapture the romance or reach the goal. We've got to say enough is enough and make a change. And we can't keep going down the same path, putting one foot in front of the other in the same manner if we want to leave a legacy worth living up to. So here's the really cool thing. You are only one decision away from a totally different life. How powerful is that? One decision away from a totally different life. So one risk, probably not going to kill you. One risk can completely transform your life. One change can change everything. So this is really, really, really a cool statistic. If you start small and stay consistent, anything is possible. A 1% change, okay, a 1% change, given enough time, can make a 99% difference in your life. A 1% change, given enough time, can make a 99% difference in your life. But you cannot leave change to chance. You must decide and change and make a different path. So it could be something as simple as I decide I'm going to do daily affirmations, and I'm going to read them every day at breakfast. That one thing, given enough time, you have no idea the power that will come from that and what that will do, not just for your Arbonne business, but for your soul, for you as a person, for your confidence, for just so many things. So a 1% change, given enough time, can make a 99% difference in your life. That butterfly effect, I'm sure you guys have heard of that. So some things that hold us back. I don't know if any of you guys are procrastinators or perfectionists, but it's very common personality trait. I have been told that I'm very indecisive. Well, here's the thing about indecision. Indecision is a decision. Sit on that for a minute. Indecision is a decision. I read that and I was like, oh my gosh, absolutely. Because when we're indecisive, we're not moving. We're not moving forward. We're not moving back. We're not moving. We're stagnant, right? So one of the things, when thinking about goals, when thinking about making a decision to move forward, we want to set a goal. Deadlines are really lifelines to achieving our goals, okay? Because we can set a goal, but if we don't give it a deadline or a course of action, it's just a wish, right? It's just a wish. And there's nothing, think about it. If you were to go out and run a mile, like run a race, and there's no finish line, okay? And you're running and you don't have any idea where the finish line is, when are you going to know when to dig deeper? When are you going to know when to click it into that next gear? Because you know what happens, whether you're watching speed skating or if any of you watched the snowboarding, gosh, each run, they just kept pulling out the tracks more and more. They knew they were up against the wire. This is my last run. I got to let all stops out. Or, I'm in second place. Like Shaun White, I'm in second place. I'm not going to go on if I don't leave it on the line right now. Okay, so deadlines are the lifelines to setting goals. They're the lifelines to achieving our goals is actually more likely. A new course of action. Okay, so the first step is always the hardest and the longest. All right, so getting going, it's basic physics. Getting something moving that's not in motion is a heck of a lot harder than keeping something in motion, right? That momentum piece. So unless we commit to a new course of action, we'll maintain our current rhythms and routines. It's also known as living life by the status quo, okay? And it's called status quo bias. How many people do you know are settling because they're too afraid to make a change, right? Too afraid to make a change. And I'm not saying necessarily our mind, like even as simple as, settling in our own business. I settled for a long time because I wasn't willing to make a change. I was comfortable and I was hanging out. And, one thing a day, maybe you add one thing and do it for a week. And then maybe the second week you add two things or, one more thing. Just over time that builds. Good intentions are not good enough. I am awesome at good intentions. And those of you that know me are probably chuckling right now. I have awesome intentions. Awesome, awesome. But at the end of the day, you need to make a decision. You need to make the call or make a move. Make a call to get out of the game or make a move and move forward. Because as long as we're sitting, we're blocking traffic. We're holding people up, right? We can't let those that want it get around us. If we're not moving, if we're just comfortable and stagnant where we are, we're not giving anybody else the opportunity to have a different life because they won't know about this opportunity. We're not giving anybody the opportunity to maybe transform their health because we're not telling them about the 30 days. We're not giving anybody the opportunity to have better skin, and maybe they're dealing with major confidence issues. You don't know. So we need to either make the call or move on. Does that make sense? So I found this really interesting too. The enemy often tries to discourage us by overwhelming us. Totally me. I want to do something, but I have a hard time breaking it down into small achievable steps. I think I should do it all or not at all. Okay, that's the enemy. The anti-success wants to overwhelm us and allows us, we get overwhelmed. So we need to fight through that and back it off and keep ourselves from getting overwhelmed. One small change. That's all it takes. And the way we fight that is by, giving it a counterpunch, by breaking our goals down into small steps. It's not, I'm going to climb Mount Everest. Okay, but what if I break it down and just take one step at a time? 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time, 1 week at a time. Because what happens is when we think about those gigantic goals, right? I want to go region qual district qual this month. Okay, maybe I'm a brand new consultant and I want to go district. And I'm looking at that 6,000. I'm like, how can I do that? Like, it doesn't matter how many affirmations and stuff you're going to tell yourself. I'm going to guess internally you're feeling overwhelmed because you've never done it before. So you don't know how. You don't have to know how. All you need to do is we break it down 1 foot in front of the other, 1 step at a time, 1 outreach at a time. Okay? And if you need help with how to break that down, I am here to help you. Danielle is here to help you. Navia is here to help you. Guys, we've done it so we know how to do it. And it's just breaking it down 1 step at a time. But you know which step is the hardest? The first one. The first one's the hardest, and it's always mental. It's not that it's physically hard. It's not that picking up the phone and asking somebody to hear about what we're doing is physically hard. It's not hard. It's up here. It's the stories we tell ourselves. It's the emotional anguish that we stir up. It's not physically hard. It's mentally hard. And so, here's the thing. We spend so much energy focusing on the things we can't control. We spend so much energy focusing on the things we can't control. And what are those things that we can't control? The outcomes, the results. We can't control those. So why are we worried about them? Why do we worry? We let our fear of what the outcome may or may not be keep us from taking that step in the first place. When at the end of the day, we have no control over that outcome. The only thing we can control is taking that step and the intentions of our hearts. If the intention of our heart is to serve and to help and to find a way to meet their needs, hey, would you be willing to hear about this? So yeah, you're asking them to hear about it, but when you go meet with them, you're going to be listening and hearing how this affects them, what need might they have so that you can then make a recommendation. It might be the business, it might be the products, it might be a referral, but that's where you're going to listen to serve. So I hope that makes sense. At the end of the day, guys, don't worry about the results. The results are going to come. It's all about taking the steps. If it's the right thing, the results, they're God's responsibility. Okay? It's not for us to know how. We just need to know why we're doing it. The how will work itself out. Okay? We just need to know why. We need to know why, and we need to make that decision to act on it. And then we just need to put one foot in front of the other, trusting the process and ignoring the outcome. And if you have to trick yourself, guys, go for the no. Because the more no's you rack up, the more activity you're in and the more yeses you're going to get, right? Right? The more no's you get means you're talking to more people. And you will get those yeses. I promise. It is a law of averages. It's going to happen. So go for the no. Totally trick your mind and say, I want this no. And that's going to keep you from getting wrapped up in it, getting worried about it. This is really interesting too. Guys, a failed attempt is not failing. Failing is not trying. Let that one sink in for a little bit, right? Remember I told you, queen of good intentions? Good intentions is not trying. Good intentions is not putting one foot in front of the other. Good intentions is thinking about it. Good intentions is, oh, I was gonna. Okay. Good intentions is not acting. And failing is not trying. If you're trying, if you are acting, you are succeeding. You are succeeding. If you are trying, you are succeeding. And that is all it's about. End of the day. I hope that makes sense. And I hope that gives a little elaboration to the decision. Because if you've been in Arbonne a month, I'm sure you've heard that. I'm sure you've heard people say you just got to decide. And I promise you, the longer you're in Arbonne, you're going to hear it over and over and over again from pretty much anybody who, shares their story or has some success. They'll tell you they just decided. They decided to do it. And this kind of, Navy and I got kind of inspired to share this. And this was kind of what I think led me in this direction with this training is Naomi shared that, her team is going into region qualification this month. Yay, Naomi, that's so exciting. And she looked at her calendar and was like, I have nothing on my calendar. I need to do something about that. So she said, she sat down, she made the first thing she did was make the decision that I am not getting up from this chair until I have activity. And she gave herself an hour or two and booked, I think, 6 to 8 events. And a combination of things, some Facebook Lives, some one-on-ones. Guys, here's the thing. You're not going to meet, every person is not everybody will go for a one-on-one, but they might go to a group event where they feel like they can hide. Or they might hop on a Facebook Live because that person might not even go to a one-on-one or a group event, but they might get on a Facebook Live. But there's people that won't get on Facebook and won't get on a Facebook Live that would much rather meet you one-on-one for coffee and connect with you, or might be willing to go to a group. So we have to hone our skills in all aspects of sharing. Okay? We really have to be willing to just put one foot in front of the other, keep our heart pure of intentions, and just one step at a time. One small change over time, given enough time, 99% difference in your business and in your life. So I hope this was helpful. Nabes, I hope it's what you were looking for. And guys, halfway through February, it's going to be amazing. I can feel it. And I'm super proud of all of you guys for, tuning in, for taking the time to watch this, and to just continue to, kind of trust the process and keeping your priorities in check and evaluating, how well are you living your life based on your priorities, not how fast am I achieving whatever it is you think you need to achieve. All right. Let us know if you need anything. Have a wonderful evening, guys.